Hey lovelies, it's Heather here. You're going to get a real short video from me, and this might be something that might help some other people that are not subscribers on my channel. This is dealing with W-2s, so that's what it's going to be labeled as, just W-2 probably. If you've watched my previous videos, you know I've been waiting on my W-2 to come in mail, and it is now the end of June, and I have not received my W-2, so therefore I was not able to file my taxes. Well, this is why. At least what I was told, just from a phone call that I just made. Because I've only been working this year at that job, then I'm not going to receive the W-2 because it's for this year and I'm filing last year's taxes. So there you go. Which, I don't know. I mean, I guess it makes sense. I mentioned that even in a prior video when I was talking about why haven't I received my W-2. I don't know if I'm supposed to receive it. But I'm too stressed out to even worry about it and look for it and figure it out because nobody's helping me. And so, anyways, but here it is the end of June and I've not filed taxes. And that really could have helped me out a lot at what time, I would think, but God has his reasonings for everything. But so if you start a new job in the new year, you're not going to receive that tax paper until not that April. Like, say you start a job in January and you leave it somewhere between, January to April, you're not going to receive that tax paper. It doesn't matter that taxes, the file date is in April. It doesn't matter that you worked those 4 months or that 1 month or those 2 months or whatever. It does not matter. So don't worry about that shit. At least that's basically what I got told. And why am I just finding this out now? Because I've only inquired about it twice after the fact. While I was at my job, because I worked my job from January to February, I asked 3 times while at my job. I was like, when am I going to receive my tax paper? Will I even receive one? Are you certain I'll receive one? And this was just from co-workers or regular managers, not the GM, and they were like, yeah, you'll receive it. Yeah, you should receive one because you're working here. And I was like, are you sure? Because it just started in January. And they're like, yeah. So 3 times I asked while I was working there. I left the job in February. I moved from February, I moved in March, and I had to get my address and all that crap straightened out. So at the end of March, like the last week of March, I called my old job that I'd left in February. Like I said, I only worked there from January to February. I only worked there a month. I called them and I was like, hey, here's my new address. I need my W-2. I've never got it. Oh, okay, well, and this is the GM. This is the person that hired me in that I talked to at the end of March. They said, oh, I've got to email the office and tell them so that way they can send you one out. What's your new address? So I give them the new address, and I'm waiting. Well, it's not here on time for me to file taxes in April. Like I said, that was the last week of March that I called. I moved at the beginning of March, and then there was a whole lot of drama from the move going on because of just shit talk, basically. So I was just trying to not literally like pull my eyeballs out of my head, basically, and like throw them at somebody because I was so frustrated. But anyways, so I called, like I said, at the end of March, talked with the guy that hired me, the GM, store, GM, and he's like, oh, I'll have to email them, get them to send it out to you. I'm like, okay. So April comes, I don't have it. I'm like, whatever, and I like, once it's past the date, I'm like, shit. And I'm like, well, there's nothing I can do. And I called the last week of March, and it'd be rude of me to call again the first week of April. And I was like, so I'll just leave it alone. I'll just leave it alone. It's okay. It's all right. It's fine. And I was like, shit, I'm going to be penalized for filing my taxes late. Like, I was upset. And so I was like, fuck. And so then April comes and goes. And April comes and goes. And I'm like, holy shit, I still haven't received it. So I'm like, well, maybe it'd be better if I go up there in person instead of trying to, call again. Because during the month that I had this job, I was in training basically for the most part. They couldn't give me a lot of hours. They couldn't give a lot of people a lot of hours. They hired me in and they paid me decent. I mean, they wanted me there, is the way that I was feeling. Like, they seen me as an asset, to their business. But I think they were expecting, well, as a matter of fact, I know they were expecting one person to leave and I was supposed to take that person's place. But then they, anyways, they kind of got frustrated with me because my nerves was shot and their method of how they did everything was like completely different from the method that I knew. And they wanted me to learn the method quicker than I could. And so I was just like, I'll learn it, but it'll take time, And like, they kind of got frustrated with me, so they just kind of put me on a different position there. And so that also cut my hours back and stuff. And I was like, well, whatever, I mean, and in all honesty, I'm grateful that they kind of put me on the other position because my nerves was shot to shit in a handbasket, basically. Like, all the crap I was going through. But anyways, so back to the whole W-2 incident and stuff like that. So I called, like I said, the last week of March and was like, hey, I need my W-2. And they're like, okay, and I'm like, okay. All of April goes by and I'm like, okay, it's the beginning of May. I should have received it by now. And so I was able to borrow a friend's car and I'm like, well, maybe it's better in person because when I worked there, I used to have to call and be like, hey, what's my schedule? They never had my schedule up. And I was always like, hey, what's my schedule? And I would always get responses like, I don't know. Let me look. Call back later. Call back on this day at that time. And sometimes I would. And then they'd say, oh, well, call back on this day at that time. And it was just this constant, kind of whirlwind of trying to figure out what the hell's going on, basically. And so I thought, well, if I go in person, since I have a vehicle, I borrowed a friend's vehicle. And I was like, maybe if I go in person, then I can get the ball rolling on them getting me my W-2. So I went up there in person. I was like, hey, here's my new address. Please send me my W-2. And that was in May. That was at the beginning of May. That was literally like the 5th day of May, probably, or something like that. I don't know. But anyways, it was within the first 10 days of May. So then, because of me and my own personal, fucked up psyche, basically, because of childhood trauma and crap that I'm having to heal from and everything, and going through everything that I've been going through this past year, I have a hard time asking people for what I need. I have a hard time demanding help from people. When I ask you for help, you better fucking do it, because it takes a lot for me to do that. And then, because I don't ask for help a lot of times, when I do ask for help, people instead end up not helping me because they're like, oh, she don't need no help. Oh, she has it herself. Oh, she get mad if I do help her. Like, they have these preconceived notions. Anyways, that's my own personal stuff. But, when I do ask for help, I need it. And most of the time when I ask for it, I don't get it. But anyways, so I went in May and I was like, here's my address, I need this. Well, this time I didn't talk to the general manager, the one that hired me in, and this was just a regular, worker. And they're like, okay, I'll pin it back on the board, blah, 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 and I wrote down my name, my phone number. I think I wrote down my phone number, or maybe I just wrote down my name and my address. And I was like, please send me my W-2, and I wrote please, and I put an exclamation point, I was like, oh God, please, it's getting further in the year and everything, and I need to file. That was at the beginning of May. I didn't hear anything from nobody. Today, and it is January 26th? I mean, not January, Jesus Christ. June? Lord, it's June 26th, 27th, something like that. I don't know, because I sleep during the day, usually, because I used to work night shift at my job before this job, and then this job I still worked late hours, and so, anyways, so it's the end of June, and I'm like, holy shit, I waited all of May, and nobody contacted me. I still haven't received it. What the hell's going on? This is what's going on in my mind. And I'm like, it makes no sense. I'm not understanding. When I was working there, I asked 3 times if I'm going to receive it, even though I started working here in January. And everybody's telling me, yeah. And I'm like, okay. And then my friend that even let me borrow her car, I'm like asking her, and she's just kind of sitting there. And that's the thing that I notice that she does to me sometimes, and it makes me wonder, does she know the answer, but she just don't want to tell me because she likes seeing me struggle? I don't know. So then, but anyways, that's just my own shit. So I called today, and the GM, the one that hired me in, answers the phone, and I'm like, hey, this is Heather. And he's like, who? And I'm like, this is Heather. And I'm like, and I still have not received my W-2. And he's like, uh, yeah, you only worked here, from in January, didn't you? And I'm like, yes. And he's like, oh yeah, well that's 2019. You're not going to receive that until next year. You won't receive that this year. And I'm like, oh, okay, and I'm like, yeah, I didn't know. And he kind of snickered, which is laughing. He kind of laughed, and he's like, yeah, you ain't going to receive that until next year. They wrote me back whenever I emailed them. So you emailed them in March? They wrote you back whenever you emailed them, and they told you, I mean, that's what my brain's telling me, because you say that they wrote you back whenever they emailed you. I'm sure they didn't wait a few months to email you back, but they wrote you back, and they let you know that, no, I'm not going to receive it because I've only been working there this year. And so I just found that out today. And so, when I found that out, in all honesty, I wanted to cry, I wanted to scream. It made me real depressed. It made me real angry. It made me real upset. It made me go, damn, my life could have been better. Damn, I probably could have kept the job. Damn, I probably could have, I mean, it just, I realized that taxes was later on and stuff like that. But, I'm pretty sure that I could have kind of worked it, because, in all honesty, let's see. When did I receive from my other job? I think I received my W-2 early from them, and I was wanting to file taxes early so that way I could keep my apartment, so that way I could get a car, so that way I could stay there, so that way I could get my kid back. And all because of one piece of fucking information that I did not know myself, and that I did not know how to properly look it up, or whatever, or I guess, I mean, part of it, yes, is laziness on my behalf. Another part of it, though, is anytime before tax season, you type in anything tax, and it's just like, file taxes here, file taxes there, file taxes, file. It's all this shit. You can't find any information that you're fucking looking for, because every tax agency out there is trying to get you to file taxes with them. And so now I'm just sitting here, and now I get to file taxes, and I'm probably going to get penalized for filing them late. And I swear to God, if I get in trouble, next year on filing taxes for this job that I had for this month of this beginning of this year, and they're like, oh, you should have filed that last year, I'm going to pull this damn video up, I'm going to send it to them, I'm going to be like, no, you listen here. this is where I worked. This is the GM's name. I called him on this day that I made this video. I called him in the morning. You know, like, he told me this. He told me he was emailed by, and told that. Like, like, I will be so mad. I will be so mad if I end up getting in trouble, with my taxes next year when I file, And I'm also already irritated because I'm like, great, I'm probably going to get penalized, which means they take money out of your taxes. I'm going to get penalized because I didn't know what the fuck was going on, basically. And nobody had the decency to tell me. And I don't know how to process that. Because my trauma mind from my childhood tells me that this was all done deliberately by everybody. Because I've talked to my grandmother about me having to do my taxes. She's talked to my parents, I know she has, and the whole family. Everybody has known when I started my job in January, and I only had it for a month, from January to February. Nobody said a damn thing to me and my family. The girl that let me borrow her car in May and that helped me get my license in November and all this or whatever, she hadn't said nothing to me about it. Eddie hadn't said nothing to me about it. And I've talked to him about it. And then to have the GM today on the phone be like, oh yeah, they emailed me back and told me, and I'm thinking, when the hell did they email you back? Because you told me you was going to email them at the end of March, April, May, June. 3 months later, you've had my phone number. Or what? Or do you not have my phone number? Is that the reason the day that I missed out of work? The day that I quit? The day I didn't show up to work? Is that the reason y'all didn't call me? Was you done trying to get rid of me? Was you done fed up with me or something? Like, I don't even know. I don't even know. Like, that's what my traumatized brain tells me. It tells me that the whole world was out to get me on this one thing, and that they all shit talked about me behind my back, kinda, to just, triangulate me and attack me. And so this isn't just a video about W-2s, but there's your information, which I gave at the beginning. If you work a job at the beginning of the year, from what I'm being told, it's not until that year's taxes. And by that year, it doesn't mean that April when you file taxes. It means that year whenever you file next April of the next year. Because I always thought that it was like from April to April. So, whatever job you have during April, to the next April, that's when the shit's filed, So, if you're working a job in January or February or March or, March, because it's at the beginning of, it's April 1st, I think, or whatever, whenever it stops, or I don't know, whatever the date is. But anyway, so I thought, okay, any job that you have in January, February, or March is going to count on the taxes that's being filed. But apparently I was wrong. I don't know. But my own personal shit and my brain and everything tells me that this was all just to be mean to me, to be an asshole to me, basically, and to show that you're mad, basically, at me for something. And so who could be mad at me for what? And my mind sits here and thinks of shit all the time that people could constantly be mad at me for, because that's the house that I grew up in. That's the family that I grew up in. They're always mad at me for something. And so, my job's mad at me because of the way that I left. They hired me in. They gave me even a pay raise for my previous job because I had the skills required for the job that they wanted done. And then I got in there and I was training on that, and he's like, hey, it's different over here, ain't it? And I'm like, yeah, it is. And he's like, well, you'll get the hang of it. And I'm like, yeah, I will, But then he came in one other time when I was working there, and he stayed and he watched me, and I was still fumbling at that point in time, still trying to get used to things. And so he's just like, he just acted like it just really irritated him. And so he's just like, and just me sensing that irritation, I couldn't handle it, and I was like, okay, he's else gonna have to calm down with his irritation towards me not doing the job, because it takes me a while longer to learn. And then, but anyways, so he asked me to do a different job position. I was like, okay, sure, I'll do that. That's where I've always started at anyways. But, I don't know. I really don't know. I feel like I've always been treated like shit, basically. I feel like I always get treated like shit. And so that's what my fucked up brain, and what I've been through tells me and everything. And even if I was to be able to have a conversation, for instance, with these people, like even if I was to be able to call him, and that's the thing too, is he snickered whenever he said that to me. He's like, because I called and I was like, hey, this is Heather. And he's like, who? And I'm like, Heather. And he's like, oh. And I was like, yeah, I'm still calling because I still have not received my W-2. And he's like, oh, yeah, they told me that you're not going to receive one because you only worked here in January, right? I'm like, yeah. Like, you're older than me, you filed taxes more than me, your life has probably been a little bit better than mine. Granted, I'm not your responsibility, I understand that, but like a civil, common decency type thing, could have been, I mean, you're a general store manager, and you can't tell me as a general store manager, I mean, and maybe I'm wrong to make this assessment, or this discernment or judgment or however you want to word it, but you are a general store manager. You manage a fucking store. And you cannot tell an employee that started a job in January and left a job in February that they are not going to receive a tax paper, a W-2, for them to file in that year's taxes that April, that same April. You can't tell them, no, you're not going to receive one, and you won't receive it until the next year. Like, that just shows a lack of concern. And like I don't know if, like, I mean, I could have possibly stayed in my apartment. I could have possibly have stayed with the job. I could have possibly have done, because I would have filed my taxes. And but possibilities aren't what reality is. And reality is I am here. And if you watch my previous video, you see where I talked about like deja vu type stuff. So apparently I'm where I'm supposed to be. But what the hell that means, what the hell path God has got me on, I don't know. So I get to meditate about this and just kind of let it go and hope for the best, and hope that I don't get penalized for filing late, or hope that if I do get penalized that it's not a lot, and hope that, things go good from here on out. But it's kind of a little bit of a, I don't want to say a setback, because it's not, because I'm staying conscious enough to it's kind of like I'm over the hill of it, I'm over the hill of the drama of the bullshit of it, but I'm just kind of like on the other side, kind of like knowing that I came over the hill, of the drama of what it could be, and I'm not even saying that that is what it was. I'm not saying that I know that people did this on purpose, but him snickering over the phone, he emailed him at the end of March, told me, he'd email him, and then when I called today, and it's June the 26th or 7th or 8th or what the fuck ever, he's like, oh yeah, they emailed me back, so they emailed you back. So I was so unimportant, like I don't know. And then this is where I get responses from people whenever I do say stuff like this. They're like, well, it's not their job to care about you. It's not their job to worry about you. It's not their job to help you. And that is heart-wrenching to me, to a degree. And I know that it shouldn't be. I get we live in a selfish, cruel world. But coming from a family that done the same type of shit to me, like, it fucks you up. It fucks you up real good. And it makes you kind of hate the whole world because you never had somebody that was willing to teach you, that was willing to care. And so you're just kind of walking around and you're like, will anybody ever care about me? I had one person that cared about me decently, and he couldn't even care about me, because your parents, your mom and your dad, they're supposed to care about you. But I had one grandparent that cared about me the way he was supposed to, and even my other two grandparents were pretty damn good about it. But one of them knew the abuse I was going through and just helped to kind of, I don't want to say help to cover it up, but to a degree she did. She just accepted it for what it was. Like, she accepted things for what they were, and that there was nothing that could be done about it, basically. And so whenever I would see her, which I wouldn't see her all the time, but whenever I would see her, when I was little, because we didn't see her there for a long time, because I think my dad found out that she was catering to me, especially, and especially when I wasn't even in school yet, and my sister was in school, and so she'd babysit me, and she'd ask me where all the bruises had came from, and I'd tell her, and she'd basically just let me sit on the couch and feed me whatever I wanted, to a degree. And then I guess I got bossy because I'd be at home sitting, and I'd be like, give me this, or whatever. Can you hand me that, to like my mom or my dad or my sister, because I was like 4, or 3 or whatever. And my dad would look at me and I'd think, say something to me, say that I'm a shithead. Say something to me, because at that point in time, I still hadn't learned to not run my damn mouth. And so I'd just kind of stare him down and be like, go ahead, say something. I'll sit here in front of the whole fucking family, because we'd be in the living room. And, I'll drop my damn pants and pull up my damn shirt and be like, you did this to me. The least you could do is hand me a damn cookie when I want one, or hand me a damn, something to drink when I'm thirsty, But he'd always end up getting me later. And so I learned over time to just hush. But, this life, man. I mean, I don't know how many times he beat me, but I know he beat me quite a bit. I know he beat me enough for my granny to know, and my granny hardly ever seen me. And I know that even when I got older, one time when I was 13, I went over and I was talking to her, and she's putting witch hazel on my back because I was scratching, because I had zits on my back, because my back used to break out when I was real young. And she's like, what are you doing? And I was like, I got acne on my back. And she's like, oh, and she's like, how many? And I'm like, just a few spots. I was like, about 10 spots. And she's like, let me see. And so I lift up my shirt, and she's like, let me see, undo your bra. And so I had to undo the back of my bra, I remember. And she went and got witch hazel out of her bathroom. She started rubbing it on my back. And I started crying. And she's like, why are you crying? And I'm like, because it reminds me of when I was little. And my grandmother that I'm living with now would have to doctor my back. And And I'm like, my back's real sensitive. And I was like, so, you know. And, like, I just started crying. She's like, well, why are you crying? Why are you crying now? And I'm like, well, my back's sensitive because of that. And I was like, and nobody helps me at home. Nobody takes care of me. You know, nobody does anything for me. And, she's like, well, every time you come over, she's like, I'll do this for you. She's like, if I see you, she's like, I'll do this for you, honey. And she sat down and she grabbed my hand and put my hand between hers. And she pat my hand with her hand that was on top, you know. And I was just like, yeah. And I was like, and my back's sensitive because of everything I've been through. And she's like, I know. She's like, I know. She's like, I know what he did to you. And I just lost it. And I remember I cried for the longest. And, like, my mom, I think, was in the living room, like, with my aunt or something. Like, the whole like, they were just in their own world. And I was, like, 13, like I said, sitting there. And damn, I did not mean to give out this much information about my damn self in this video, but I did, so there it is. But, so I'm gonna end this video here, yeah. Because I just gave out more information than I want to, but I'm not remaking it. So I hope everybody's doing good. Keep putting your best foot forward. If you needed information about a W-2, there you go. You have it. And if you wanted to get to know me, apparently you got to know some of me. Sorry if it's too much for somebody that just wanted to know about W-2 and whatever and stuff like that. But I hope you're doing good. Keep putting your best foot forward. Take care. You know, work on yourself. And I'll catch you later. Bye.